Well, hey everyone, thanks so much for checking out this video. Hope you enjoyed that little intro bit. I definitely had a lot of fun. Filming it obviously is inspired by the opening scene of The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, which happens to be one of my favorite movies of all time. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you go check it out, and then the little intro bit will kind of make a little bit more sense as to what's going on. Well, anyways, my name is Tyler Edwards. If we haven't met, I am a filmmaker from Charleston, South Carolina. And yeah, I also make YouTube videos. If you're new here, definitely hit that subscribe button. And if you're not new here, this might be something a little bit new to you, but I'm hopefully going to do a little bit more of these videos this year, because one of my goals for 2020 is to learn more about lighting and just kind of up my filmmaking game in general. And doing stuff like this is kind of out of my comfort zone, because I don't typically do this for my, for my freelance work. It's more interviews, corporate interviews and testimonials and stuff like that, weddings and corporate events. So I don't really have many opportunities at a professional level to work on stuff kind of like this, where it's like short films and narrative type stuff. So I want to use my YouTube channel as a way to kind of push me and just kind of grow as a filmmaker and all that kind of stuff. And I figured I'd kind of take y'all along the journey to maybe, if I learn a couple things, might pass it on to you and you learn a couple things. And also, the great thing about the social media and the internet is you have a comment section. You can leave all kinds of feedback and constructive criticism and all that kind of stuff, which is a great way for me to learn as well. And hopefully you can learn in the comment section and all that kind of stuff as well. So that was kind of the idea of doing this scene recreation. And I got the inspiration from one of my favorite, I don't know if he'd like to be called a YouTuber or not, but he has a YouTube channel, so we're just going to call it YouTuber. His name is Spencer Sakurai. He's one of my favorite YouTube channels. He does these scene recreations, and I'm not trying to rip him off at all. That's not my intent. My intent really is just he gave me the inspiration to kind of recreate the scenes, and like as I was doing this, I realized how much value there was in doing this kind of thing, because you just learn so much from shooting something, from filming something, to setting up the lighting and the audio and all that kind of stuff. Just even this short little segment, I've already learned a lot. So I want to continue doing this in the future. So if you happen to be watching, Spencer, please don't think I'm ripping you off. That's not my intent. Just think of it as a compliment, because yeah, anyways. So what I'm going to do in this video is just kind of break down the different shots that I got throughout this little intro sequence, and then kind of talk about the lighting and all that kind of stuff. I didn't have time to go around with the video camera to kind of point out each of the different lights, but I took some pictures on my iPhone so that we can kind of point out things and kind of show how the different lights are doing different things. So I primarily used the Canon C200 with the Sigma 18-35 on it for pretty much every shot, except for the overhead shots of the checkbook. And that's pretty much it. I used the Blackmagic Pocket 4K for the overhead shots, and I have a picture that I'll show when we talk about those shots. But yeah, other than that, I was on the C200. Okay, so for the first shot, we have this top-down shot. And I should mention that I shot all this and I framed everything in the 2:3:9:1 ratio just to match the actual film. So I should have said that before. But anyway, so let's jump into it. The first shot here is the top-down shot, and I have the Pocket Cinema Camera 4K on the C stand right here, and I just got it just going straight down, and I'm using the Canon 16-35 f4 lens just because it's much lighter than the 18-35, and I didn't want to put any more weight on the C stand that I didn't need to. And then I got the Mars 400S system to wirelessly monitor, and I got the Portkeys BM5 monitor right there with the Bluetooth module, and I was actually able to use that to trigger record. And I shot all this by myself. The scenes with my buddy Tyler in it are the only scenes that he was there for. All the other shots I just shot by myself, the calculator, all that kind of stuff. So anyways, the way I lit this scene was pretty simple. First, I just had this SL60W light from Godox, and I just got that setting right into the ceiling, and that's just to lift the exposure of the overall room up. And then right here I've got the Aperture 120D Mark II with the Fresnel attachment on it, and I got it blasting. The kind of the light beam you can see is kind of doing this number right here, and you can see like a lot of the light exposure is actually right here, but I wanted to have some of that exposure lift, even bouncing off this back wall, just to give you a little bit of exposure. But the edge of this Fresnel beam, or whatever you want to call it, is still giving me a nice hard shadow on top of, on this, from this pen and the corner of this calculator and all that kind of stuff. And so that's kind of what I'm doing there, is just to get just that little hard shadow that you can see kind of on the top-down shot, and just to kind of recreate what that opening shot of him flipping the checkbook open was. So that's that shot. Actually, wait, before we move on to the next shot, here's another shot real quick, kind of a little bit closer to my view, just to show you the port keys monitor right here. And I was able to use this monitor, and actually there's a record button right here on one of the screens, and I was able to use this as a way to monitor what I was doing. And then I was able to trigger record from there, so I didn't have to touch the camera, and so the camera wouldn't bounce and all that kind of stuff on the C-stand. So pretty nifty there. Okay, so moving on to the next scene. Okay, so this scene right here and the scene where it's a tighter up of him, basically just the tighter side profile of the shot, pretty much lit the same way, with the exception of one tiny light, and we'll get to that when we get to the side profile shot. But the scene right here is kind of the first, I guess, one of the master shots, I guess, of this whole scene. And in the movie, the camera's kind of looking down a hallway through the kitchen. So my way to kind of recreate that was just to use, shoot this whole thing in my living room here, and use this wall on the right here, and then this wall here or this countertop on the left here, to kind of create a fake hallway, or just a way to kind of push the viewer to look down a hallway, as it were. So that's kind of what I did there, and really try to keep these walls pretty dark, and kind of have almost a vignette or sorts or anything of this whole scene. So what I did here is, off to the left, I've got a SL60W shooting up into the ceiling to kind of give some soft light, and then right here, and you can actually see it in the shot, there's the 120D, and I actually got a picture of this to show you for the most part. Shooting the light down to kind of give him this kind of rim light here, and that's kind of the window here is kind of the motivating light for that. And then so yeah, that's what we got going on here. Pretty much that's it. Those are the only two lights that we used in this little scene. But the next scene, we're going to jump to the side profile shot, because it's pretty much the same lighting setup, except the only thing we did is the difference here. We just brought the 120D down a little bit, just to give a little bit closer to him, just to soften the light source around his face just a little bit more. And again, we have this Godox light just blasting into the ceiling, just to kind of bring the overall exposure of the room up. And then the only other light that we added was this right here. This is the Andycine R1, I believe is what it's called. And it's just an RGB light, kind of like the Aperture MC, or all those little handheld RGB lights. And what I did with that is used that as kind of a hair light. And so if we flip over to the actual shot, the Aperture, the 120D over here, is creating this like nice soft light here, and this like rim light around his nose. And then this little RGB light, just set to I think it was set to 6,000, something around there, is creating this little hair light right here on his hat, and then on the back of his shirt right here. And that's really being motivated by this window right here. So two lights, one in front, one behind. A 120D is kind of acting as the light motivated by this door window here. And then this window here is what's the motivating light for the little RGB light. Okay, and then the next shot that we'll talk about is this kind of wide shot in the room. And this is my favorite shot, but one that I learned the most on, and one that I would have wanted to change the most about. Before we can jump into that, we'll just kind of talk about the actual lighting setup that I did here, and the whole setup. So first of all, this picture here is kind of looking, basically like at his back, if you were. So C200 right here with 18 to 35 on it, and then I've got the NTG5 pointed out. I brought it down just a little bit more. This is kind of as we're setting up, but you got the NTG5 just kind of getting the audio of the keyboard, the mouse pad, and the calculator and all that kind of stuff. that audio. We actually brought this table over quite a bit. It was positioned basically where this little reflector is. And we brought this over more just to kind of keep a frame of reference, keep the windows and keep the framing a little bit more aligned with what the actual film was. So yeah, so we got that. We got the 120D Mark II and the light dome Mark II, just kind of blasting light on, just kind of has this key light right here and just really nice soft light on his face. And then through this window is the Godox SL60W with the aperture Fresnel attachment onto it, and it's just blasting light right through that window and creating like a nice hard light onto that back wall where over that fireplace. And then you've got right here on this right side, or I guess the left side of his face, on the shadow side of his face, I've got the that little RGB light again, just blasting into this reflector and just kind of adding a little bit of fill on just kind of the shadow side of the table and of the of his face, and it kind of adds like a little bit of a kicker on the on this bowl right here, and just add a little bit more dimension and character. I probably could have brought that down a little bit more because there's a little bit of too little contrast in it for my liking. I probably could have added, taken that light down a little bit more, but yeah. And then the next thing that I really learned was I really wish I would have positioned this light a little bit more to kind of fill out the hard light kind of coming through here a little bit more. This line right here, just it kind of looks unnatural, but we didn't really have that much time, honestly, to kind of change that around. On the tighter shots, we kept all the lighting the same. The tighter shot actually looks really cool. So yeah, unfortunately, this is probably like my biggest mistake of this whole scene right here, in my opinion. I like the framing, I like everything about the look, but could have looked a little bit better. But again, it doesn't look awful. I still think it looks pretty cool, but it could have been softened or brought down just a little bit, just to keep the focus on the talent a little bit more. But one thing I like about this window light is when he walks back to the chair, I like how he kind of passes through that light. It looks really cool. I like how that looks. Okay, so moving on to the calculator shot, the kind of the tight of the calculator shot. This one was kind of tricky to film because I had to like rack focus and push the buttons at the same time. Took me a couple tries to nail that one down. But from a whole camera setup, got the at 35 mil at like f3.5, but I got really close to the calculator, so that's why it still looks like really shallow depth of field. I got the 120D Mark II and the light dome Mark II again, just kind of blasting right here down onto this backside of the calculator, kind of imitating the window light. And actually, in the stand is actually in the final shot, but because it's so blurry in the background, I mean, now that I tell you, you probably notice it. But what this is doing here is just kind of creating like really soft light, but kind of backlight in these shadows, and just kind of creating like these soft shadows coming, you know, coming at the camera through the buttons on the calculator. So I got that, and then I've got the SL60W on the just kind of pointing up to the ceiling, just kind of give an overall exposure lift there. And then what I did is I just kind of taped the calculator to the table. Just so it wouldn't like shake and bump and all that kind of stuff a ton when I was pushing the buttons. And yeah, that's pretty much that shot right there. Okay, next up is this like computer shot. Pretty simple shot. But anyways, what I wanted to do is when I shot this was actually after the sun went down, so pretty dark. So I had to be a little bit more experimental with the light. So I wanted to keep the edge of the computer screen nice and dark, nice and black. So I didn't want to have any reflections. So all the lights are obviously behind the computer. And then back here, I brought the exposure up a little bit, and I got a picture to show you all this. But I wanted to bring the exposure back up in the background, obviously, and then on the left side, kind of like in the actual film, it's kind of got this like Venetian blind effect. So to achieve that, what I did is first I had I put the light dome Mark II on the SL60W, and it just blasted up into the corner, and that just kind of gave some soft light down back in this back corner over here. And then what I did is I put the aperture 120D Mark II. You can see it kind of on the back porch right here. And I got it shining through this kind of like fake cookie that I made out of an old range target. And I'm just shining it through right here, and you can see it's just kind of creating this like fake Venetian blind look right here. And then it's kind of hard to tell, but basically like right here, and it's kind of behind this target basically. I have that RGB light again, kind of at the same color temperature as all these lights, and that's just kind of shooting right into here just to bring the exposure up of that a little bit, just to kind of even things out. So yeah, that's pretty much that shot, and it was just like really hard to type and like stay out of frame. So okay, and then the very last shot that we'll talk about is I've completely spaced on taking a picture of it, but anyways, sorry. I shot this the following day in my office, so right here, just right on this desk right here. And all I did was I brought this window up, this window right behind me here. I pulled that up because I didn't want to have the like light leak right here. I wanted to have like this really green and blue background, kind of like in the film. So what I did is I cranked the internal ND on the C200, I think all the way up to like, I think it was like 8 stops ND or something crazy, just to get this all exposed and nothing clipping. And the reason I had such high ND is because I wanted to still have a pretty shallow depth of field. So I think I was at like F2 right here. Because of that, I had to blast a ton of light. So I had the 120D Mark II and the Godox SL60W, basically where this key light is right now, just blasting down. I had the 120D Mark II in the light dome. And then the light dome mini was on the SL60W, and that was just pumping a bunch of light. This is where like a 300E or something like that would really become helpful, just to have that extra output. And that was just blasting a ton of light onto here, still trying to keep it soft. And then under it, right about like right here, I had that little RGB light again, and that was kind of kicking up some light just under the bottom of my hand, and a little bit of a rim on my fingertips and stuff like that, just to add a little bit of separation from the background. So that's what I did. I still wanted to keep this kind of dark, but kind of this bluish green that was going on. And outside the window, there were some trees and stuff like that. So that's kind of where I got those green tones and stuff like that coming in, and then color grading kind of did the rest. So yeah, that's pretty much all the scenes. Like I said, that straight on wide shot and the tighter shots are all lit the same. Side profile shots were all lit the same. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Well, like I said, I'm not an expert like this at all. In fact, that's why I'm doing this, is to learn. So I hope you found that useful, informative, or anything like that. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. And yeah, let me know down in the comments below if there's anything you liked about this or didn't like or feel like I could have improved upon. Let me know down below, and hopefully I'll improve upon those on the next time I do this. And also let me know if you want to see more like this in the future. If you don't, I'll probably still do it anyways. But anyways, love to hear your opinion. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you don't have anything to comment right now but still want to leave a comment, then let me know down in the comments below what your New Year's resolutions for 2020 are. And if you don't have any resolutions, then let me know why you don't have any resolutions to begin with. Well, like always, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it useful and all that good stuff. And I hope to see you in the next video. Peace.